Hello everyone, welcome back to another political recap stream here on the Moist Ski Live channel. I'm starting now, but the reason you see this on the screen is because delicious, scrumptious, trupsy wupsy lupsy isn't here yet. Because of goddamn traffic. He is stuck. So for the time being, you have me. And I thought, well then, what we'll do, we'll go through some sources I put aside just in case. And, well, when Chups gets here, ditch this because it's nowhere near as interesting. I'm kidding. It's actually quite fascinating, really. So to a nameless guest, hi. Hello to anyone else that turns up. I just realized I have Top Chat on. If you're listening to this on Spotify, because we do have a Spotify, thank you very much for listening to us on Spotify. All 211 of you over there, I really appreciate it. Sorry it's been 3 weeks. 2 weeks ago, Trups had his well-deserved LARP break. Last weekend, I was, of course, in Norwich visiting a dear friend of mine. So we have been delayed. But we will try and get back into some form of a rhythm. And by extension, try and make the shows as good as they can be. Hello, Nathan, Jessica, Jingo J. You got a weird dating app. Yes, we got monetized! I'm kidding, it doesn't really matter. We make bugger all on this anyway. But we did get an alert yesterday that this channel got super thanks. God knows what those are, but we got them. Hello, Orla. Hope you're well. Hope everyone's had a fantastic day. I thought I would start this stream with this guy you see on the screen. Now, this man is Crispin Blunt. He is the Conservative MP for Reigate. Why does that matter? Because I grew up in Reigate. This was my MP when I was a kid. This is the guy who was in charge, you know. He was the guy that represented us. I guess it explains a lot. I seem to have always lived in very conservative areas. Even in Norwich, I think the region I lived in, even though it was mostly students, still was outvoted and Conservatives won. It's quite strange. I think it's because the Liberal Democrats kind of betrayed the students, and so the students were like, well, you're not getting our votes, so we're just not going to vote. Amusing stuff. Crispin Blunt is after, I think, 35 years, or was it 25? Oh, yeah. 25 years. So, hang on, what? Tell the ensuing 25 years. He's standing down, okay? He's one of the... He rose to some prominence a few years back because he came out. Fantastic for him, of course. We want him to be happy with who he is. And who he is, he shares his life with. Of course. Fantastic stuff. Couldn't really care less. However, it's not that that's got everyone's attention, it's this part here. So let's just go over and get an article on it. Imran Ahmad Khan, MP guilty of sexual assault on a 15-year-old boy. This is Imran Khan from the Conservative Party. He was expelled by the Conservative Party the moment this happened. Right, now he is going to appeal his conviction. He has yet to be sentenced. So following the verdict, Khan was, expelled with immediate effect. There's no way they'll keep him, because why would they? He's already brought Wakefield into disrepute. I doubt they'd want the party to be further sullied, considering what Boris has been bodging up recently. Ballsing up, cocking up. How many years does this guy face in prison? I don't actually know. So, according to this article, the BBC, Imran Ahmad Khan had gone to the boy's bed, reached in and touched him. And no. He's looking at prison, by the way. There's no version of this where he doesn't go to prison. No idea how long. But let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Mr. Justice Baker said he would sentence Khan, not Sadiq, at a date to be fixed, and he warned him all sentencing options including immediate custody, are being considered by the court. So he'll be appealing this, but if it's anything like Charlie Elphick, he'll get like 2 years and a slap on the wrist. I don't know how this affects his pension after Parliament, or if he has any money, but how's this tie into Crispin Blunt? Well, Crispin Blunt, after this happened, well, what did he say? Oh, where is it? Blunt said okay, originally, he called it a dreadful miscarriage of justice, just up here. Which, I'll be honest, Crispin Blunt probably shouldn't have tweeted that out. I know that Khan was his friend. I fully get that. In higher office, though, you have to, without any kind of wavering, hello, that's crime guy. You have to 100% back the court. You have to back them and the decision they make. Because if you don't, it is essentially career suicide. Hello, Bookworm Addict. Hope you're well. And Red 5 Golf. Indeed lame. That's politics for you. So, this guy was elected in 1997. I moved to Reigate in 1996. I know, interesting stuff. Hello, Cyrene. Hope you're well. Trups isn't here just yet, unless he is and he's not said anything. No, he's not here yet. So, we're going to go with, he defeated the incumbent Sir George Gardner, who has switched from the Tories to the Referendum Party. The Referendum Party. Does anyone remember that? Does anyone remember that party? Because I barely remember that. Abortion is murder. Well, that's fantastic. You have a strong opinion on the subject. When Trups gets here, that is a subject he can speak on. When it comes to the subject of abortion, I've said multiple times, I have no interest really, because I don't have kids, I have no intention to have kids, I don't really make it a point to go near that subject because to me, I'm not comfortable with it. But I know it is a vitally important subject to discuss, and so if I can understand what Trupp says when he gets here and talks about it, then fantastic. And I hope that you, Red 5 Golf, stick around. I don't know where he is. Oh, he's still stuck in traffic, I think. But when he joins, fantastic. You can, by all means, engage in that. Did they rebrand from the Cuck Party? I honestly can't remember. But it was a long time ago for the Referendum Party to exist. Of all parties. Like, just for the sake of it. You defect. No, you defect. You defeated the incumbent because the Conservatives didn't back you anymore. And it was a Conservative-held area. You defected from the Conservatives to another party that nobody backed. No one was going to back. Not in 1997. In 1997, you had John Major versus Tony Blair. That's what you had. John Major, a quintessential, old-fashioned conservative. He's become a bit more, in his beliefs, a bit more progressive as time has gone on, sure. But he's still a very conservative guy. And Tony Blair, the non-politician politician, the people's champion. Oh, Jesus, that was loud.
Hello.
God, that's a sexy voice. I'll switch back here now. Hello, Trups.
Hi.
Fuck me, you're loud in my... Oh, I know why. I got my headphone volume at like 100%. That doesn't help. How are things?
So I actually know why my traffic was so shit on the way home.
Car crash?
There was one. The
Nice.
other one was a car that got set on fire.
Oh, fantastic. That is such good... I hope no one was hurt, but that's fantastic news. I'm so happy for
they were perfectly fine. They were standing outside their cars, the fire department. You know how, like, cars are, like, usually, like, made of metal?
Some have wood. The old Morris ones do.
Yeah, well, this was partially melted.
Oh, that's a significant heat then, really, isn't it? It melts as opposed to...
Yeah.
Okay.
It was straight from the engine, so I wonder how that went.
What are they doing? Transporting moonshine?
Fuck if I know, bro.
Anyway.
But by the time I rolled by, it was still smoking, so...
Well, that's fair. How's Trups been this week, mate? Actually, how have your 3 weeks been? It's been 3 weeks.
I was going to say, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
Fuck.
How was LARP? How was LARPing?
LARPing is great. LARPing is my escape from the real world, which
mine was Norwich.
Is always necessary.
Obviously, as 2 weeks ago, I said earlier, I started the stream 10 minutes ago. When Trups went LARPing a week later, I had my friend, well, not a few days later, in fact, my friend David came down and I went up to his to Norwich for a few days. Essentially an R&R, I guess. I got to see his parents again, which was awesome because they love me and cooked me lots of food. Sadly, though, my friend David had he was ill, so we sat and watched movies and chilled because he couldn't eat anything.
Oh no!
Which hasn't ended very well at the moment because he's now in hospital and still waiting to leave. But I won't go.
Oh
I won't. I
no.
won't go into any further on that. That's not my business to go
Well,
into.
I hope he's all right.
He's all right. He's just stuck there now, which is hilarious and sad. If you're watching, Dave,
I'm
I'm
sure he's
sorry.
miserable.
I'm sorry, Dave, but I can drink whiskey and you can't now. That makes me happy.
Uh huh.
I
Well,
also don't have a
I
cannula in
wish your
my arm.
buddy a speedy recovery then.
Thank you. I'll be sure to pass that on once I've told him to suck it while I sip on a glass of monkey shoulder.
Mm.
So I started the stream with something simple because I thought, when I had a few extra topics, I thought I'd finish it. So Crispin Blunt was a politician for the Conservative Party, or is and has been for 25 years, and he has, because of his comments defending a sex offender, which he's deleted and apologised, he had to step down from his all-party parliamentary group APPG, which is a party focused on LGBT issues. Himself being in that particular group, I can fully understand him supporting that, but stepping down in the context of defending a nonce in his own party, probably a good idea. And resigning makes sense, to be honest, because Crispin Blunt is not young. He is quite old, and probably should retire so he can enjoy his twilight years. He is definitely a boomer. Where would Trups like to start? Because
God,
actually,
there's been so much.
there was somebody in the chat, Red5 Golf, and just about 2 minutes before you
Oh.
joined, they wrote in the chat, abortion is murder. They did murder in 2 bits. So no doubt somebody will want to discuss Roe v. Wade at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So where would you like to start?
Definitely.
Actually, hang on. In our tab, it was announced that the White House has announced yesterday that Karine Jean-Pierre, a veteran anti-Israel activist who's married to CNN correspondent Suzanne Malveaux, replace Jen Psaki. What do you think?
Oh yeah, she's finally fucking leaving.
I assume to go
it's
pose in
not
Playboy.
better.
It's not an improvement, but not because of it's that anti-Israel thing right at the start that might raise a few eyebrows.
See, for me, it was the CNN anchor relation.
I mean, that doesn't help at all.
That was my first indication. Like,
there is a conflict of interest.
Well, at the very least, a conflict of interest. But like the anti-Israel thing, okay, I get that. That is a hot topic in. Let's be honest. It's a hot topic in several countries. Okay, so you've chosen a side. That's fine.
It's a dangerous one in high
office.
You
are married to an actual left-wing media pundit. I think I know where your opinions are gonna lie.
Yeah, it also will determine who you're likely to answer questions from.
Oh, absolutely. And those that you might have actually seen at parties. And I mean, it's ripe for all kinds of
shenanigans.
Yeah, basically. Like this is the perfect breeding ground for corruption.
100%. And then again, unironically, while having claimed corruption in the previous administration, there is a clear sign that it could well lead that way with that conflict of interest. I think, by the way, the anti-Israel thing is a hot topic in many countries. Yes, some say that it is the right position. In high office, it is the wrong position. You do not say that in politics.
Oh, absolutely.
You should never be seen going near that. And if you are there and you're supported, chances are something is wrong with the system if you're not willing to call that out, because that's within your own party. They've made that decision. That is a bad decision. If you're supposed to be the party of the people, the globalist party is supposed to represent the world's police. Unless I'm
absolutely
wrong here.
No. I think it's quite right. I mean, at least from a political standpoint, you want to appear as neutral as possible.
Yeah.
At the top, in my opinion, because that way everybody can see and identify with you as somebody who might be looking out for them. Now, of course, we very well know, as we cover, we cover politics, that no one does that. But it would be nice. It would be nice.
It'd make for a nice change of pace, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, it would. So, okay, if we were going to start with oh shit, what did I write to you? I wrote a whole bunch of different topics to you, right?
You wrote a few,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, you wanna start with Elon Musk acquiring Twitter?
So I have I've covered this this week at Twitter, and I have
Oh,
more.
easy.
I had more sources for this week. I'll go and get them. More Musk.
Well,
So we had a Twitter exchange between Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, which is quite funny.
mm-hmm.
I'll read it. So AOC tweeted out, tired of having to collectively stress about what explosion of hate crimes is happening because some billionaire with an ego problem unilaterally controls a massive communication platform and skews it because Tucker Carlson or Peter Thiel, Thiel, Thiel,
I
right,
sure.
took him to dinner and made him feel special. Elon Musk underneath, stop hitting on me, I'm really shy. AOC, I was talking about Zuckerberg, but okay, she deleted that by the way.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
I'm sorry.
Because
In that context, that is not Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg does not dine with Tucker Carlson. Does he?
oh no, you know what? I don't know anymore because
Let's have a look.
there are so many. We're gonna call them coincidences.
Oh no,
That
Zuckerberg did have dinner. No, Zuckerberg hosted a dinner, and Carlson was there.
okay.
Um, Off the record dinners with conservative figures. So it was an off the record dinner. That's what it was.
Mhm.
That seems.
Okay.
She's trying to make it seem more sus. Okay, that's interesting. I like that. But to be honest, Elon Musk
Oh,
replying to that is quite funny. I think.
oh, absolutely
And
it is.
deleting a
But I
response.
think it's more. I think it's more interesting that. Okay, right. This has been my position on this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Elon Musk, he has purchased Twitter.
Yep.
And apparently, this is terrible for everybody. Like, everybody is now in danger. Hate crimes are going to be flying off the roof.
Well.
Everyone's going to be shouting the N
Mm-hmm.
word.
Yeah. Naga.
It's terrible.
Naga.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
just to
Or
add
if
to
you're Chinese,
wait, what's
in Chinese, the word
oh right,
is
sorry,
a phrasing
okay,
that would in English sound like
right,
the N
okay.
word. We
So
talked about
to
it
add to
a year
that,
ago.
Elon Musk, free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe
Hmm.
Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? Final results: 2,035,924 votes. What do you think the split was?
Um, I'm gonna guess and say 80-20.
70-30 in favor of no.
Ooh.
And by the way,
Well,
underneath, he tweeted, the consequences of this poll will be important. Please vote carefully.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, no, it's a very important. Do I believe Twitter adheres to the principle? No, because we already know that Twitter has been gutting their site in the first place. I know that BitChute had, I saw them tweet to Styx Hexenhammer, because Hex had, no, his tweets are finally getting seen again, his followers have gone up, and he noted it. And yeah, so Styx Hexenhammer, he gained in was it 1 day or 1 day and a bit or 2 days even. He had gone up. So he was averaging at most 20 followers a day, but then 1 day later, with you know barely any Twitter difference in number of tweets, 141 up, 390 up, 376 up. And BitChute's response to it was, "Your tweets are now showing up organically in our feed, first time in ages." Styx has said, "We have two possible explanations here. One, I suddenly and coincidentally became a lot more compelling. Or two, Elon Musk bought Twitter and the shadow banning system has been removed because the Twitter executives are terrified." Which, by the way, would explain a lot because my followers have started going up too, and I know I'm a nobody, but I've actually started going up when I've been stagnating for a while.
I started noticing more interaction on my posts.
I did too, but only because I've been baiting them. I'm that bored. I probably shouldn't. I'm a bit of a dick. But yeah, it's interesting. It's really people are saying it's bad because and I saw there's well, she was a TV presenter here, Jamila Jamil. She's a bit of an activist. She's very much against like Kardashians with their body image nonsense, the perfect curve and the photo shooting. But she's also very social justicey, feministy, in the very like antiquated sense, but trying to claim not. And she did her. I'm leaving Twitter now because I can't. It's just going to be hateful, and people are going to be misogynistic and sexist over here. And so she obviously left with the dog picture. Mick Foley himself said he was considering leaving Twitter for the same reasons, because you can't allow hate to breed. Thing is, even if Musk owns the site, he has to adhere to the terms of service with other platforms to be able to have Twitter as an app. So even if, there was more people that were right-leaning that came back, maybe they came back from Gab, Parler, Minds, or Truth. Fact is, it doesn't mean they're going to be breeding hate. It just means that they finally realize they're no longer going to get dogpiled or flagged into oblivion. And I don't think, and because of how they generalize with these words, these, the soundboard sort of cliche words, really, aren't they? They're asserting this is what's going to happen before it's even happened. It's like when Trump took office. The same nonsense. He's going to push the button on the nuclear weapon. No, he didn't.
Oh, yeah, they thought he was a crazy person, right? Absolutely insane. We were going to go to war, and then he got out of office, and then we entered into a war.
And I just like to point out, but he'll start a fight with people. He shook hands with Kim Jong-un. He got peace talks going in the Middle East more than any other president had done. And that's what he got rid of.
He organized a treaty between the United States, Mexico, and I think another Latin American country to help curb migration.
It was also wasn't it 5 countries in the Middle East? They agreed to peace talks of sorts. And that was because of him.
The Abraham Accords.
That was him, and you can shit and people say he was all that bad, but you can't honestly say he was when you've got that context.
Oh yeah. Also, let's also remember. The economy wasn't shit.
No, the economy's a tricky one because coronavirus really, or if you want to call it sheeple crowd control, whatever you want to call it, I don't think there's any president that could have gone through that on the other side and done well. I don't believe anyone could have, and I don't think Biden could have. He couldn't even get his Build Back Better plan through.
Well, see, now that's the problem, though. See, Trump and Biden have two fundamentally opposing views on how to fix an economy. And it just so happens that Biden's plan involved a lot of stimulus, a lot of spending, which is pretty typical for Democrats. The problem is that sent inflation soaring.
Which he was warned about.
Which he was warned about. As was Trump when he first started the stimulus thing, because it was his idea at the start. They kept going, and that was, I think, a mistake.
That obviously takes us off topic a little bit. We'll get back to it in a second. I do remember seeing the Trevor Noah roast of Biden, and he pointed out that things are looking up. Rent, bill, fuel. In fact, everything's gone up. Biden's response was to laugh at that. I'm sorry, that's not a roast. That's a damning indictment of your administration. But back to the
yeah, but he laughed at every joke.
I couldn't tell.
I'm not gonna rip into him too bad for ripping at a joke that was literally intended to be a joke at his expense. I'm gonna give him it for taking it on the chin.
All right. Well, I'm sure he didn't ask Secret Service afterwards to shoot Trevor Noah. Where were we? Oh yeah. So Elon Musk buying Twitter. Do you think it's a good thing?
Do I think that Elon Musk buying Twitter is a good thing? Yes.
Why?
Because I believe that too many people were using Twitter as a... I believe that the term that they used was a fire hose. That they allowed certain streams of information through. Obviously, Twitter is just a constant, mind vomit of all your thoughts and billions of tweets per day, all that kind of crap. But when you start curbing algorithms to show only certain things or to reduce the amount of other things that you see exposed to you, then what you're actually doing is you're doing a mass change of the opinions of people, because they will now see all these people who tend to agree with them. This is the problem with people who clustered online. You could say the same thing about 4chan, actually, if you wanted to go down that road. That the individuals with like-minded opinions all clustered into one corner of the internet and therefore became a certain type of person. Well, unfortunately, Twitter, being a mainstream application, they used a lot, there were a lot of different types of people. So you had celebrities, but you also had the common folk and everybody else in between. And they would only see that which in this case, the left wing decided to allow. Within certain contexts, because there were some people they could not get rid of because of just, I guess, how their audiences would have reacted and moved their attention elsewhere, stuff like that. Like, for example, Crowder, they had suspended him plenty of times, but him having Blaze allowed him to continue to give out his messages, regardless of what Twitter or YouTube did to him. Regardless, Elon Musk went in with the expressed intention, I don't know what his private intentions are, but his expressed intention was to get rid of spam bots, spam/bots, by the way, and to revise their algorithms as to allow a more free conversation to happen. And I think that's a perfectly good thing to happen.
Okay. Are you saying you're against the echo chamber?
I hate the idea of an echo chamber, actually.
Oh, good.
That's not a good way to be well read, well educated. To only hear from one side. It's not great. Like, for example, I was listening to CNN on the way home, and they said something very interesting. Our April job numbers came out, and we added 400 and I think it was 28,000 jobs to our job market. Great. And then CNN said something that I thought was very strange. It was, we had the lowest unemployment rate in the past 3 years. And I was like, 3 years? Why does that number sound odd? And then I remembered, 3 years ago was when the pandemic started. So no shit, Sherlock. Yes, you have the most numbers since the bottom. Good job. Now, I noticed why they didn't say 5 years. Because Donald Trump had record low unemployment.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yes. And it was one of those things where if you weren't paying attention or cocking your head a little bit when you listen to some news, you go, I don't know about that. But similarly, I do similar things to Fox News. I disagree a lot of the time with Geraldo Rivera, as well as several other of their news pundits, in the mornings in particular. I think that sometimes they're full of shit.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they're full of shit, and sometimes they're just saying what they think, and I'm like, well, that's your opinion, dude.
I mean, at least it's an opinion, but I would have thought with a media outlet, opinion should be kept to the minimum.
Well, I mean, it's an opinion like show.
Oh, is it?
Sometimes sometimes their morning shows are like, they have, here's the news. Hey, person, what do you think about it? And then they're like, I think this. And I'm like, okay, that's the opinion part.
Yeah. Okay, it makes more sense than you said that.
But the blue check marks hate the idea, by the way. And
why?
I know that. Why? Why do they hate the idea that speech is no longer curtailed? Well, if you listen to the left wing, at least if you listen to what they have to say on Twitter, they will say it's because hate speech will become a run rampant on Twitter. If you want to know the real truth, it's because they no longer can control the conversation. You see, well, I know you know, but the Hunter Biden laptop story is a great explanation of all this.
Oh? What's the
Twitter.
what is that story? If you give me the Cliff Notes, please.
So it was the ooh, it was the New York Post. They had written a story about a laptop purported to be owned by Hunter Biden that exposed a lot of his foreign business dealings in Ukraine and China. When it was released, uh, several people called it Russian disinformation, and Twitter censored it and actually suspended the New York Post for I think about 2 or 3 months. Um, and you could not repost that story. In fact, if you tried to send it to your friend on Facebook,
Mhm.
Facebook would block you too. I tried.
Nice.
Um, and this was an instance in which they very clearly did not want a story to get out. Now, I've had arguments on Twitter about this. Some people said, well, it couldn't be vetted. And I was like, what do you mean? It was literally vetted within like 3 days that, yes, this was like a guy literally basically did some computer science mumbo jumbo and was able to track, yes, in fact, this was Hunter Biden's laptop. This was his email address. These emails are legit. Not to mention the Tony Bobolinsky, one of the individuals mentioned in these emails, also
Yeah.
came out and said, yes, it's real.
Right.
Um, but Twitter and Facebook, they were like, no, you can't share that story. In fact, there was a poll after the election that said, if you had known that this story had happened, would you have voted for Biden? And there was a significant amount of people, a statistically significant amount of people that said, if I had known, I would not have voted for Biden. Enough that he would not have won the presidency. So, in essence, that means that Twitter interfered with the election. Just saying. At the very least, that is something that cannot happen.
Right.
You have the midterms coming up right now.
I'm looking forward to that.
This is a very important time, and you're gonna see a lot of ads, a lot of smears, and a lot of people campaigning. If you only had one side being allowed to speak, then of course you would have a terrible, terrible situation. Ironically, a host from MSNBC thought the same thing. And he then proceeded to go off on a tangent that was frequently posted around on Twitter, about 45 seconds worth, in which he was saying, could you imagine what would happen if these people got control of Twitter? They could censor a political candidate. They could shadow ban others' opinions. They could basically do everything that I just mentioned, and that would be a threat to our democracy. And everyone was reposting it like, yeah, no shit, bro. That's what y'all did. You already did it. And it was a beautiful moment of the lack of self-awareness.
Yeah. It's quite astonishing,
that
really,
just
isn't it?
I want to say it's astonishing, but at this point, I think I'm numb to the fact that everyone's either stupid or lying. So it's really hard to like have that thought. But I have ranted long enough. What are your opinions on Elon taking over Twitter?
I couldn't care less. I'm just intrigued to see whether or not people are going to be allowed back on a site, and whether or not Elon mentions this sort of almost leveling up mentality, and I want to know what he does with that, what he intends to do to improve the site, whether that means something as simple as giving everyone that edit button they so desperately want, or whether it be a change to the interface. I don't know. I don't know what he has planned, but I'm intrigued to know how he's going to go about it. But beyond that, people using the site couldn't care less. I'd like to see. Okay, I tell that. I would like to see whether or not he'll allow people who've been yeeted back, regardless of reason for ban. So those who got perma banned, or told they had instigated an insurrection, perhaps, or peddled false news.
Some have been allowed on already. Tucker Carlson, for instance, was one person who had gotten indefinitely suspended, and he's back.
Yeah, I noticed his Twitter because I was looking at it the other day. I was talking to somebody about him because I was curious, and
Hmm.
yeah, he has a Twitter. I didn't know that.
Yes.
I'm kind of intrigued by the by whether or not Alex Jones will be allowed back. That one intrigues
Hmm.
me. I don't think, and I don't think Elon Musk can let Trump back. I don't, even though he owns the site.
Um,
I think that's a really that's
so they actually had that discussion already, and Elon and Trump did actually have that talk, and Trump said, "Thank you, but no, I'm going to stay on Truth Social."
Oh right, okay. Well, that makes that easier then.
So
I
yeah, which kind of makes sense. I mean, he built this platform. He thinks that if he were to turn tail and go to Twitter, then no one would go on
I
Truth
mean, he could
Social,
just use
which
what
would be
others
a
do.
bad
He
investment.
could he could do what others do, like Gab, Parler, and all that, and use it to promote their platform.
True,
But you
but
have got a fair point.
I think that would kind of still water down the effect, you know. Um, but yeah, I want to see how it goes. I
Yeah,
do want to also entertain a healthy bit of skepticism that yes, he talks a big game, but I await to see results.
yeah.
So far, I have seen some results in that suspended people are coming back, and it appears like follower counts are going up for some people.
Mm.
Don't know exactly
So
the reasoning behind that, but
with regards to seeing results, he does have a track record of getting things done. He does have that.
yes.
Whether or not he can still have that on Twitter is very different. I know he
Mm,
owns it, he outright owns it. So he could just do whatever he wants, really. But I
hmm.
don't know if he can make those changes that he wants to make. But I don't know what he wants to make. He hasn't really said yet,
True.
has he?
Well, he said he wanted to make the stuff open source.
That makes some sense,
Um,
to be honest.
yeah. He wanted to reduce the amount of spam and bots,
You wanted to
and
verify
I think
humans.
right.
So I'm out. You're
And I
out.
think there was enough. I think it's more like if you are posting the same exact thing over and over again.
Oh, like YouTube had that system as well. If you post the same video
Yeah.
over again, you're getting muted.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how he's going to go about the bot thing, but there are plenty of different bot like phishing plugins that you can use
Right.
to kind of weed it out.
Well,
But
that's
I
interesting.
I do want to see how it works out.
Agreed. I'm patient. I don't mind. I'm just going to keep on plugging with YouTube and see how that unfolds because I use Twitter, but not that much. Beyond looking for stuff for videos or maybe occasionally trolling people, I'm not really uh, the most active. You look at the number of tweets I put out, and then someone like sticks. I'm not even double digits per day. I don't tweet that much. I'll stick to
Hmm.
dog pictures. It's easier.
Okay, okay. So yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes. Okay, so where do you want to go from here?
I want to talk about UK local elections.
Okay.
Local elections are for the council seats. Consider, okay, so you have states, we have counties. Okay,
Mhm.
counties generally have MPs who are essentially the top dog. You have councillors that are like our version of a state congressperson, but not really paid. Um, they're involved in how the city town is run. A council is. There's a number of them on that council, depending on the size of the region, of course. And these elections this time in 2022 are very important because we're 2 years removed, 2 years out, sorry, not removed, out from a general election. This would be a test to see how Boris is doing so far, 3 years in. Um, well, so far, out of 146 council like places, like regions, 144 have been like declared. That's interesting, right? Well, the Conservatives haven't done very well. Now, Labour have always held vast amounts of councils anyway. I don't quite understand how they manage that, but they do. It just happens. But the Conservatives are kind of well, Labour didn't really make as many gains as they could have, but the Conservatives didn't do well at all. In fact, they're the only main like of the six main parties in England. They're the only one that actually lost councillors. So Labour went up 52. Liberal Democrats went up 191. They're actually gaining some steam again. People seem to have forgotten 2010. Independents went up 28. Green Party went up 60. Green parties do very well in council seats. They're just a very eco-friendly group. They only have one MP. Well, Conservatives lost 341. That's how many. Basically, all those gains you just heard, that's what the Conservatives lost. And some of those losses came from regions of the United Kingdom that the Conservatives have held since like the 60s. And we're talking about like flagship London boroughs, Wandsworth and Westminster. The Tories lost in Scotland, Wales, and by the way, in Wales, they lost control of their only council. They had only one of them, right? It's bonkers. Boris has said that no, it's a tough time for Tories and they'll bounce back and all this nonsense. I'm sorry, but the man has lied in Parliament. He has lied to the people. He has lied in every sense of the word. He's so out of touch. When he was told about a 77-year-old pensioner called Elsie, who rides the bus all day because she can't afford to heat her home, his response was, "But I did give her a free bus pass."
Oh, thanks, bro.
His actual response was, "The 24-hour freedom bus pass was something that I actually introduced." Her energy bill went up from £17 a month to £85. For a pensioner who's on state pension only, that is a chunk that they cannot afford to use. Because £17 no longer covers what it would have before, does it? So this poor old lady is stuck riding buses. If that's how people are going to keep themselves warm, at least the buses are being used, I guess. But in the same respect, they shouldn't have to be riding a bus all day so that they can keep warm. I know some will say, "Oh, you can buy a candle or maybe use bigger blankets," but they've got to buy this. They've got to be able to buy these things. Boris is cocked up on multiple areas. There are some things he didn't cock up on, but in this context, he's losing grip, and he has. He's been fined by the police. He's brought Parliament into disrepute. He's brought his party into disrepute. He's brought everything. The ministerial code he's absolutely ignored. He is absolutely ignoring the fact that he has failed, and he has lied, and he is now using Ukraine as a reason to stay in office because that's what we need right now. A strong leader who has been treated as a literal joke on the international stage. You have an approval rating on par with Emmanuel Macron. The fuck is wrong with you?
But look how well that turned out for Emmanuel Macron.
And if that happens again, congratulations to Boris Johnson in advance. But in the United Kingdom, that doesn't work here. Approval rating actually means something here. The voter turnout in France was very low, so it genuinely... No. Here, though, he will be voted out in 2 years. He has to change something. And the only way he's going to change... it is if he leaves. Straight up. That's what has to happen. And to address Cyrene here, if Starmer gets fined, will he resign? Now, that's a good segue to somebody else, I guess, but I don't want to be dawdling on this. I don't know the full context. Allegedly, there was a gathering of some kind. There was some beer consumed. I don't care about the beer part. But I do think that I will have to address that at a later date. All blankets aren't going to solve the issue. Agreed. I don't refute that or deny it. And yes, how dare someone have disabilities that affect your body's ability to regulate its temperature. Thank you for mentioning that. I really appreciate it.
Now, one thing I do want to ask, because you did say that he was a laughingstock internationally.
Yeah.
I don't know if the U.S. has ever had too much reporting on Boris Johnson, honestly.
It's because he's only a bumbling idiot on a national level. Which is...
So only for the UK and its surrounding countries?
Europe.
Okay.
Europe would be the main one. We are an absolute laughingstock. I know all but the EU. Not quite that. European countries think we're a joke because of Boris. And I mean, they might still be salty about Brexit to a degree, but no, it's definitely that. Remember when Boris first went to Ukraine He went
Yeah.
first time he went there. They mocked the crap out of him. No, yes, they're grateful now, but they mocked him because he's weak. Straight up, he is weak. So in total, So hang on. Labour did fail to beat Corbyn's record or dent Boris Johnson's red wall. I can't let you out, Tilly, because you'll just be thrown out of the house again. The polls currently show, though, if this now went to a general election right now, okay, no one would have an actual majority. It would be a hung parliament. That's what it would become. There wouldn't be a minority government or a majority government. So I think this humbling is either him now, he has to either address what he's done wrong, because he can keep saying he's sorry, but he never meant a word of it. And I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, he said sorry, we don't believe him. No. He didn't say sorry. He skirted around what he actually did and skirted around the fact he lied to then just say, I acknowledge that what this report says, and I'm sorry for that.
I'm sorry that you reported on my
my
stupidity.
That's what it is. And right now, it's sleaze, isn't it? It just makes it look absolute shit.
All the time.
I don't know what the voter turnout is, because to be honest, I didn't even know these local council elections were happening. No lie, I really didn't. So there you go. You can at least say that wasn't very known, I guess. But I am interested to see if Boris can actually bother to do the right thing this time, just resign, because he's a shit prime minister now. He was then, to be honest. He was at first, because he didn't really obey the rules at all. But at least he was trying to get Brexit done, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt, because I wanted Brexit done. But fuck me, man, this guy just doesn't get it. He's funny, he's hilarious, he bumbles about, but he is no longer funny when he has completely compromised Parliament. And I know politicians lie all the time, but this one is one where he has been caught on such a magnificent level, there is no coming back from it, and he shouldn't be allowed to. But I could be wrong.
I wish our politics had as much fervor as yours does sometimes, because honestly, man, I swear to God, if we actually went out and forced resignations on all the politicians that we ever catch lying, just straight up lying.
Oh, you'd have no one.
God, we'd have an entirely different system.
You would have anyone has conflict of interest stuff and gets caught out lying about it. You'd be gone.
You'd have a brand new fucking Senate.
You wouldn't have people using that conflict of interest to push their agenda. I do want to now, though, give some sort of, not credit to him, but use it quickly to touch on something else. In last week's exhibition of stupid people, I touched on this. There was an allegation that through the Daily Mail, that the only reason Angela Rayner, the deputy leader of the opposition, sat in front of Boris whenever he answered questions was that she could then basic instinct him, and that would distract him and cause him to flub his words. For that to make sense, uncross and then cross her legs. The thing is, I think he's seen enough in his lifetime to not need to see that ginger wall part, like an ocean. I don't think he needs to see that at all, and I don't think that was. And people immediately jumped to Angela Rayner's defense and said that the Conservatives are sleaze, they should be ashamed of themselves, and this kind of ill, thought out attack anonymously is horrendous. Now, the Speaker had requested Daily Mail, or the Mail on Sunday, to go to Parliament to answer questions directly to him. Now, journalists should never be summoned to Parliament. That is a complete breach of freedom of the press. And they are well within their right to say no, which they did. They said no. The thing is, according to an investigation conducted by the Mail on Sunday, actually, the unnamed Tory MP who passed those comments on, passed the comments on because they apparently came from Angela Rayner herself. So, a senior party source told BBC, following the Mail on Sunday, Angela Rayner published the story published this week. queries were made about who the Conservative MP was that supposedly made the comments. During those queries, it was found that Angela Rayner had made the comments to the MP herself. But the Labour source then replied, the idea that Angela initiated these vile sexist smears just shows how far the Conservative MPs will go to avoid talking about tackling the cost of living. That's not what was said at all. Apparently, this all came from Angela Rayner herself. Apparently, Chavi Dudar completely cocked this one up. I don't know if that's true or not. Of course, the Daily Mail are a bit more right-leaning, so yes, of course, it could well be a lie. But if it is true, that's even funnier. Tilly, do not walk on my keyboard, thank you. I'm not letting you out. I can't.
Yeah.
I have a nephew asleep downstairs because my sister's doing an all-night shift with him. If she goes down there, my sister's just going to throw her out the house again. Observe. She'll be by my window in 10 minutes. Want to go out?
Yep. No, yeah, you let her back in.
Yeah, see you in a minute. If she comes back in, I'm going to shoot the Nerf gun.
Mm-hmm.
Who said that? No, so yeah, apparently it all came from Angela Rayner and it made me chuckle. So Roe v. Wade, let's do that.
Oh, alrighty.
You're off. Get on it.
All right. So, how do I start with this?
What is Roe v. Wade?
So Roe v. Wade is a 1973 Supreme Court decision that made abortion legal and available by demand in the United States.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately, the explanation is also the problem.
So
let me
is this
go into
is
the
this a
news
federal
first.
thing or is this a state thing?
This is a federal thing,
Oh, is
and
it?
that is actually the crux of the issue. So,
Okay.
so let me first explain what the news was. So
Okay.
the news about Roe v. Wade was that a couple of days ago, somebody leaked a first draft of a Supreme Court decision from
Yeah.
the current court to overturn Roe v. Wade and by virtue Casey versus Planned Parenthood, which is a follow-on Supreme Court case that basically used Roe v. Wade as a basis.
Okay.
People obviously got livid because this was a hot topic during the Kavanaugh and the Amy Coney Barrett Supreme Court nominations. This was one of the questions that a lot of the Democrats, the left wing politicians had keyed in on because of their obviously conservative nature, and in the case of Amy Coney Barrett, her religious situation.
Did you know that Catholics support abortion?
You know what's funny about that is that Biden, actually in I believe the early 90s or late 80s, also tried to vote to repeal Roe v. Wade. Actually,
Shh.
I just want to put that little nugget in there. You can
Nice.
look that up, by the way.
Oh, I already did. I already did.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I figured that was why you asked.
Yeah. And it was also on the thumbnail with Elizabeth Warren with some pickets behind her saying it.
Yes. Well, you know what's funny about this whole thing is that I made a tweet about this. Fundamentally speaking, Roe v. Wade is a bad law.
Why?
Okay. So Roe v. Wade is based on the idea that a woman and her doctor have a right to privacy in so much as getting an abortion. Okay?
Okay.
So the issue that Roe v. Wade brought forward was that in Texas, there was a law at the time that abortions could only happen in the cases of rape, incest, or the life of the mother. Well, Jane Roe, Norma L. McCorvey, her real name, had sued the state of Texas for stopping her from aborting her third child.
Okay.
And so in a 7-2 decision, they found that Roe's right to privacy had been violated and that the regulations on abortion were unconstitutional. Okay. So, unfortunately, and this was the thing that RBG said, um, he basically created a new right of privacy. Okay. Um, there is no text in the Constitution that gives even the hint that abortion is a thing that you have a right to. It is that kind of logic was based off of Griswold v. Connecticut, which is another law that another ruling that established a more foundational right to privacy by basically interpreting what it would mean. So, for example, the Fourth Amendment allows you, you have a right against illegal search and seizure, right? So theoretically, that implies that there is a certain amount of privacy that you have a right to, your own personal effects, right? You can't be illegally searched. That would imply that you have a certain amount of privacy to the things that are on you. And then that extended to your car, your house, and a bunch of other stuff that would be considered yours. This was an implied power, an implied right to privacy that was created over time. Okay. So, this implied right to privacy was then used as the basis to then create the abortion law. But unfortunately, because this is based on another Supreme Court case and has no, like, at least that, like, those laws, they have immediate textual references, right?
Okay.
They say, okay, you have a right against legal search and seizure. That means you have a right to your own personal privacy. Good. Okay. So when Roe v. Wade basically looks at that and goes, you have a right to privacy, that means you have a right to privacy to do operations without the government knowing. No, that's not how that works. Like, the implied power is not textually based, right? The implied power itself is textually based, but you can't then base it on, like, the floating thing, the thing that doesn't have, like, it's not written, like, right to privacy, not written anywhere. You can't then use that to base off other decisions. And so, right now, that's the issue. They're saying abortion is not codified in the Constitution. Your right to privacy to have an abortion is not protected by the Constitution. Roe v. Wade is a bad law because it's not based in anything textual in the Constitution. And these are all statements that RBG had made, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in 2013 when giving a speech to the University of Chicago.
So I asked on Twitter what people thought about this, and someone on Nurse Khaleesi on Twitter, she mentioned that it should be down to the states to govern, not the US government itself. And
Correct.
a response to that was, yes, but then we run the risk of mini Trumps deciding what can and cannot happen to a woman's body. Thoughts?
So that was actually the problem with that was actually what Roe had stopped. So as I mentioned when framing this, Texas had its own abortion law. It said that you only could have an abortion in the case of rape, incest, or in the when the mother is in danger.
Yeah.
That was Texas's own state law. Roe v. Wade made it a federal thing that you could not make this illegal. So if you repeal Roe v. Wade, it actually returns that right to the individual states. And to the comment that was underneath the nurse person that you had mentioned,
yeah,
then don't live there. Simple as that. Like, I don't like how California runs their things.
I think
I don't live in California.
it's a very stunted mentality. Each state has its own country,
Well, we
own
all
cultures.
operate with, yes, we have our own, yes, culture is a better way to describe it because we all operate under federal law um, within a certain respect. Um, for example, if you do something that is legal in your state but illegal federally, you cannot do that outside of that state, regardless of whether or not you live in that state. Take weed, for example. If I go to Washington State, I can smoke weed there. I can't take weed that I bought in Washington and drive to Texas with it. That's illegal by
Okay.
the Interstate Commerce Clause, which basically says that it's the way the federal government applies
Yeah.
the federal power to everything.
Yeah.
So, um, it's yeah, you could say that, but this is potentially a blessing in disguise, right? So let's say Roe v. Wade gets overturned, right? And this is something that I realized last night. Roe v. Wade gets overturned, and therefore Planned Parenthood versus Casey. And by the way, Planned Parenthood v. Casey was the thing that established trimesters as a legal basis for being able to have an abortion. So, like, you can have it within like the first and second trimester, but not the last trimester, for example. Like, that was where that whole set of laws came from. It was from that 1992 Supreme Court decision.
Okay.
So if you get rid of Roe v. Wade and all the individual states start making their own laws, well, I anticipate that the blue states are going to completely allow abortion the way that they expected to, as the Democrats want them to, because that's who controls that state. So places like Colorado, New York, California, New Jersey, they're probably going to have abortion be legal.
Yeah.
Places like South Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, places like that, probably not. So let's the blessing in disguise is, you remember how we talked about all the people who were leaving California and going to Texas?
Yes, I remember.
They may not want to be in Texas anymore.
Well, they might think if more of them go there, they can outvote it.
True. That is possible, but I think that they will find that for conservatives, this is a very, very this is a topic that they will definitely go out and vote for. For whatever reason, and I'm going to do sweeping generalizations here. Fair warning.
How dare you?
For the most part, I feel as if conservatives, and I'm not saying Republicans, conservative-minded people, have a much more give much more importance to the idea of family and the family unit and wanting to be close to that family and having large gatherings, large families, and integrated and communicating family all the time, right? That's what they want to have happen. Democrats are a little bit more lax in that, sure, they are totally fine with the idea of a nuclear family, but they don't necessarily find that that is so overwhelmingly important, because a lot of people, especially Democrats, they tend to live in big cities. Their children end up going to other sides of the country. They may not see them all the time. And this is okay for them because they're doing work, and that's acceptable. That's fine. But they're not so shook up about it. They're like, my child is succeeding. He's in LA. I'm in, North Carolina. That's okay. Well, conservatives don't really like that. They like the idea of everybody being together. Like, Christmas is for everyone, right? The whole family comes around. Even the aunt and uncle that you've known since you were 2. There's pictures of like your aunt and uncle, like, holding you as a baby, and they've always been there. That kind of thing, I find, is much more typical maybe also because I'm in the South, so maybe that plays a part.
Yeah.
But I find that's more conservative, right?
Right.
Or actually, also, large Black families are also very much like that, and large Hispanic families are also very much like that. But they tend to lean more conservative anyway. Um, you can almost there's a big asterisk there. Uh, correspond large functional families with
Hmm.
conservatives almost always. Almost. I say almost because there are also welfare. There's also people like who just can't stop having kids.
Oh, there are
They
plenty
just
of those around.
yes, and it's a terrible life choice, but
There's someone that lives
alas.
locally to me. She's on her 10th.
Yes. Well, see, that's why I said functional family.
I don't get it.
Um, Sometimes you would find those families end up becoming very
I
dysfunctional.
did see someone. There's an article from the Insider related to this Roe v. Wade thing, and said this Roe v. Wade report, if true, which has been proven to be true, investigation undergoing, of course, because now it's
Mhm.
happened. Well, it hasn't happened yet.
Mhm.
Um, but that now will cause a massive, do more harm and potentially ruin hookup culture.
Good.
I mean, I don't really care about hookup culture, to be honest. Couldn't care less what you do. If your pull-out game is bad, that sucks to be you. If your protection isn't good enough, that sucks to be you. Um, I'm not interested, really not.
Well,
Um,
the other thing is like
Hello,
if we're gonna
tipster.
go down that if we're gonna go down that rabbit hole, I think hookup culture is also psychologically damaging because you never form a an actual bond with the person that you are engaging with. Um,
How
there
dare you?
are there are psychological and hormonal responses
You
to
fascist.
having intercourse with other people and you know reaching conclusion. There is some psychological evidence there that says that the person who you actually do have that with the explosion of oxytocin, the good hormone feels, usually ends up creating a stronger emotional bond to the person.
If people want to fuck, they
Now,
can fuck. But this time, there might be a slight consequence, depending on which state you're in.
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, but like that's like a couple of studies. That's not really that important. But I find that hookup culture is kind of sad. Um, Now, of course, I went to college. I did that for a little bit, and maybe it's a personal thing. I found it to be empty feeling. Like, okay, cool, you're done. Now you go back to like your place, or you stay around, and then you just kind of get up and
I
go.
I
Like, I don't
can
know.
I can safely
I
tell
don't
you.
like it.
I went, obviously I went to university as well, and I did not engage in this at all. I was so adamant that I needed to succeed in academia first, um, and I mean I dated somebody, of course I did, but not hookup culture. Fuck that shit.
Mm,
A lot of people I know did do that, and some of them suffered for it, and I laughed at them for it because back then, they were so. While they claimed to be themselves pro-choice, they were adamant they wouldn't have an abortion. I found this quite an odd contradiction. Um,
mhm.
to be so in favour of the right to abort, but then to, and at the same time, sorry, there is an issue with all that hookup culture stuff because if you had the choice for an abortion, and I always found this quite irritating, um, you've gotten someone pregnant. Now, one of you doesn't want that child, so you have the right to choose. But that person doesn't actually get a say on whether or not that can actually be aborted. It's down to the one person who's carrying. And I find
Mhm.
I don't want to drag it onto an MRA thing, but that always worried me as well when I was younger. So I was always I always made it a point to stay away from it because I never wanted that in my life.
Mhm.
So hookup
There's
culture to me
there
was too
is
much of a risk.
there is another danger to the hookup culture, especially in the wake of if they remove Roe v. Wade. So there are instances, and I'm sure you could pull up plenty of, crazy girlfriend or crazy woman does X. And the instances, they tell their partner, yes, I'm on the pill, or yes, I took birth control, or, I have an IUD. Um, and they don't, and it's a childcare trap.
Oh, what's that?
So child support is basically if you're not with the mother, but the mother has the child, then
Uh-huh.
you can go to court and you can get sometimes upwards of, depending on your income, can be sometimes $1,300, $2,600 a month to pay for the child. It can be as little as $300, but I've heard stories upward of $2,600 per month for a child.
Really?
Yeah. So there is that end of that spectrum as well.
Okay, so
So that's danger.
I have a query then. With
Sure.
regards to this now being confirmed by the Supreme Court that report exists, it is what it says. Um,
Yes.
I'm somewhat surprised the response hasn't been, firstly, to get more Supreme Court justices in to swing the vote. But what do you
Hmm.
think is going to happen going
Hmm.
forward? Will this actually be
Has
confirmed as a thing, or?
So this is a first draft. So it was written by Samuel Alito, and it was a staffer who leaked this document. So at the very least, yes, this is in fact the first draft of a decision.
Okay.
However, Justice Roberts claims that no, not everyone has solidified their vote. Here's the problem. Um, if they change their opinion now, then it is proof that the mob can sway the court, and that's bad. Like, they need to hold on to this opinion, whether or not it was the right opinion or not. They need to hold on to it now, because if they change their opinion, then it proves that the Supreme Court is fucking worthless. That they bend to mob and to, in this case, threats, protests, doxing of the Supreme Court. The House of Representatives and the Senate actually extended the powers of the Supreme Court's basically their cops to provide security detail to the justices and their families because they have gotten death threats for over this. So that actually has been the response,
Wow.
and that's been going on since the thing came out. Like that night,
Mm-hmm.
people already ran out to start protesting, which I thought was crazy. So we have a major problem that if because this is truly a draft, it was written by Alito, and Roberts came out sounding wishy-washy on the whole thing. That's the Chief Justice, by the way. Then we have a real danger of watching the Supreme Court literally lose all legitimacy in this country. They need to hold on to this decision no matter what, and that means facing down death threats. And that's a shit position to be in.
I couldn't agree with you more. It certainly will make this next week rather interesting. By the way, I saw something on Twitter that made me chuckle. I went and looked at the trending for this, and I thought, oh whoa, what do we have here? CNN: Americans remain broadly opposed to overturning the Roe v. Wade decision. Let me just finish this though. According to a new CNN poll, I'm sorry.
Yes, the CNN polls.
Um, please don't consider yourself a source. No one believes you. I actually was watching something. I was watching something the other day. It might have been a movie, and in it, even in that, they were riffing on CNN for being fake news, and this was an old movie. This wasn't like last 10 years; it was earlier than that. I thought that was very funny. I just wish I kept the source because it was so fucking hilarious. That CNN have not been a respected news source in a long time. There's no version of this where they are one either, though.
Mm-hmm.
So what the fuck are they doing? You know, saying that this is their yes no support the overturn counts for shit because it's your own poll. It's going to be done in progressive states or states that are more progressive than the let's say the reddish states. It's going to be in regions where you know you're going to get the votes. It's not accurate reporting. Also, I'd like you to do polls right. For it to be truly reflective of a country, it has to be at least a certain percentage of the country. So good luck making all those phone calls.
Now, if you want to hear the absolute fucking reeing from the left, one of the greatest people to go and look is Eric Swalwell. You should be familiar with this individual.
I know that name.
Yes, you do. He's the one who farted on an interview and got very upset. Oh, also he was the one who slept with a Chinese spy.
Leia.
Yes. Well, 1 hour ago he tweeted, "Would anyone be shocked if Republicans went after women's right to vote next? I wouldn't."
Some people seriously say that women should have the right to vote. I fundamentally disagree with that. Obviously, my country is not the same as yours. Fundamentally disagree with that. I think human rights are very important. Individuals' rights shouldn't be gendered in that context. Voting should not be gendered in the slightest. But that's just me. I think everyone should have the right to vote, except prisoners. Fuck them.
Well, what's even funnier about that is he actually didn't stop there. He also kept going and said that Republicans would also go after the right to interracially marry and the gays as well. And a lot of us are just sitting there going, but wait, why would we do that? Like that's not a thing we do. Like a lot of the conservatives and Republicans right now are very okay with interracial marriage and the gays. Like that's not the issue that Republicans have. They keep trying to swing Republicans as these anti-gay monsters, like the "Don't Say Gay" bill. It's like, no, we just don't want you talking about sex with kids. It's actually "Don't Say Straight" too, by the way. But whatever. Just don't talk. And also, it's just wait till they're 8 bill. Also, just don't tell 5-year-olds what pegging is, okay?
So there was I've got this saved for another video actually. A lady in, well, yes, you know which state. She was talking about pronouns and how she likes to talk about them with children in her class, and I kept this for yesterday's USPA, in fact, and then I found something today or yesterday. Oh no, Florida. This is, by the way, a pansexual Florida teacher was fired for discussing orientation with students.
Oh yeah,
I've got TikTok videos of her talking about sexuality with students, and then she gets fired.
Did you know the whole story about that?
No, I need to read it. I kept hold of it because I was like, "This is funny. I need to look at it at a later date." But do give me the context.
So the quick little cliff notes is she's pan, and she was explaining sexuality to her students. 5th grade, by the way.
What does that mean? Age is that?
11.
Okay, year 6. 11. Year 7, sorry.
Yeah. And basically said, okay, now you draw your pride flag and we'll hang it up. Some kids said they were gender fluid. Some kid, which is not a sexuality, that's a gender identity. Don't know why they made that a thing, but all right, whatever. Some kids said they were gender fluid. Some said they were pansexual, gay. But a lot of them were confused. Reasonably so. I don't think I would have understood at that time. But yeah, that's actually grooming, right? So you're asking 11-year-olds to, after you presented sexualities, you're asking them to now choose a sexuality, not,
You are grooming a
whatever.
child, yes. I agree.
And then this is the worst part. You're putting it up on display so that other people can see it, so that their friends can see it, so that then that is a topic of conversation that you have at the lunch table.
That reminds me of the
So
old.
that other kids can get bullied for it. Actually,
It's that same thing you saw, like so perhaps not quite the same, but where people in an entire episode of South Park were telling one of the kids that they were gay.
Yeah,
It's that same thing. It is a form of grooming, regardless of the outcome.
absolutely
It's a
it
form
is.
of grooming.
But yeah, that's why she got fired, and she was like,
I do have the article. I just haven't got around to reading it. But thank you for providing the cliffs notes, because that actually means I've got some. Definitely, I want to make a video on because it's funny.
Ooh, good.
On the second channel, Omegon to Electric Boogaloo. Go follow me. My main
Yes,
channel.
do that. Please go.
Yeah.
Do you have your link? Are you going to show it in chat?
No, it's in Linktree though. Linked in the description though. It's listed
Okay,
as
cool.
second channel. Yeah, go
Sick.
there. I'm all about that. We have hit 1 hour 20, by the way. So I thought
Yes.
quickly, in summary, what will happen next? Roe v. Wade.
You're gonna see a lot more people. Oh, well, it is riot season now, so we're probably gonna see more of that. You're gonna see a lot of protests, a lot of riots. California already had several cars get lit on fire. I don't know why, because California literally has nothing to do with this. But yeah, the riots will probably start.
Well, I look forward to them. It's been trending on Twitter for quite a while, so this should be interesting. I'm in England, so it doesn't really mean it.
Oh yeah, well, fair.
I've got a whole
don't worry, I'm in a state with plenty of guns.
I've got a whole body of water.
True.
And we've got threats of annihilation from Putin, so why do we care? We're too busy laughing. We're too busy laughing at that bozo who looks like he's probably dying anyway.
True.
Yeah.
So yes, Wildling, get the steel-toed boots. They're very useful.
Fantastic. As we have reached the end of this stream, thank you everyone for joining us. Would Trups like to promote his Twitch, perhaps? I'm
going to do that, but I'm also going to just drop my YouTube link. Go ahead and follow me.
Subscribe.
Because that's free. And then that's the Twitch link. Boom.
And that's also free if you hit follow. Please do that.
Yes, also free. And I would love it if you would follow me, because I want to get to a place where I don't have to compete for 3 viewers. Hell yeah.
Fantastic. Grow an audience, grow a community, always like a good challenge. I don't have anything to promote. I do have a second channel. I made it more recently. It's actually a fifth. I made it because of recent issues on the main channel. I've mentioned this on the main channel a couple of times. I'm not only going to mention it now. It's called Omegon 2 Electric Boogaloo. Yes, stolen from Dankula. No, stolen from Jeff Holiday, actually. And I've been doing more frank response sort of commentary, and I've gotten some rather interesting comments concerning cultural appropriation, which is hilarious. Yep. But yeah, there's videos exclusively going over there as well now, and I'm kind of energized because
cool.
But we're gonna go. Unless Trups isn't here next week, we should be back here on Friday.
I might have to get back to you on that one. I don't know if I'm going to be here next week. I forget what week it is.
Okay, no guarantees, people, but if we are here next week, we'll be back here at 9:45 p.m. GMT, if not a week later. But I will be doing a research stream on this channel at some point, and probably a PMQs next week as well. So thank you again for joining us. I hope to see you all soon. Go follow us on Spotify. Ta-ta for now. Say goodnight, Traps.